What do you know about Belarus? I imagine not much, as they isolate themselves from the rest of the world. They aren't a big or successful country by any means, and they're best friends diplomatically speaking with public enemy number one in this current year. But what makes them most unique is the fact that they're essentially Europe's last dictatorship.
A dictatorship? I thought we didn't have those anymore.
For some reason, a few people think that dictatorships are a dated title that ended in 1989 when the Berlin Wall was torn down, but that can be further from the truth. There are plenty of dictatorships that are around today like Belarus, and today we're going to take a look at the Belarus of each continent. But first, some ground rules. Now for reference, I was inspired to make this video based off of a fan suggestion, specifically by this one by the 84336. Really rolls off the tongue. Now just like my Switzerland videos, I'm going to have 3 boxes that the entries have to tick. And they're going to be a combination of my own personal criteria and the ones that you gave. So the first box is they have to have a president for life type leader and/or is a military dictatorship regime. These things kind of go hand in hand, so that's why I put them both in the same box. My second box is that they are politically and economically subordinated to a larger neighbor. So like for Belarus, that would be in reference to Russia. And lastly, not really a specific criteria, but just they gotta be small and/or isolated. Alright, pretty straightforward, let's get started. Asia, North Korea. Now something I didn't mention earlier is that the guy who commented that suggestion also gave his own entries, and I'm gonna say why I either agree or disagree with his picks from now on. His pick for Asia was Cambodia, and I can't help but suspect that there's some recency bias with this one. For those of you who don't know, Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Sen was the longest serving leader in Asia from 1985 to 2023. He, only a month ago from the time of me recording, handed down the power to his son Hun Manet. Now with this in mind, Cambodia undoubtedly ticks the first and third box, but the second box, subordinated to a larger neighbor. Well, in the context of Belarus, I don't think it's accurate to say that the gulf in power between Belarus and Russia is comparable to, say, Cambodia and Vietnam or Cambodia and Thailand. So for me, that's why I didn't pick it. And let me explain why North Korea is a better fit. So the first box is an easy tick. North Korea has been under the leadership of the Kim dynasty for decades, starting with Kim Il-sung and continuing with Kim Jong-il and currently with Kim Jong-un. These leaders have maintained an authoritarian regime with absolute power and control over the country's political, economic, and social aspects. The leadership's grip on power can be likened to the president-for-life situation, as leadership is passed down within the family. The second box is also an easy tick. North Korea is highly dependent on China, its larger neighbor, for political and economic support. China is North Korea's main trading partner and provides vital assistance in the form of food, fuel, and economic aid. North Korea's economy is heavily reliant on China's support, and its political decisions are often influenced by China's stance, effectively making it like a radical puppet state. Small and isolated, that's also an easy box. North Korea is relatively small in terms of land area and population, especially in accordance to its neighbors. It's also isolated in the political sense. North Korea is easily one of the most closed off and strict countries in the world, even more than Belarus. So I hope you agree that North Korea is a better fit than Cambodia in terms of being the Asian equivalent of Belarus. Alright, on to next one. Africa, Eswatini. So his pick for Africa is also Eswatini, and I definitely agree with that one. So let's just start with the first box again. Eswatini is an absolute monarchy with King Mswati III as the reigning monarch. The king holds all the power and the political parties are banned, which I think you'd imagine creates a highly centralized and authoritarian system of governance. While not exactly the traditional sense of a president-for-life scenario, I still think that it ticks the box. Box number 2 is also a pretty easy tick. Eswatini is small and landlocked, and essentially surrounded by South Africa on almost all sides. It's heavily dependent on South Africa economically speaking, including trade, employment opportunities, and financial support. They are also the only African LDC south of Mozambique. And number 3 is the easy tick. I mean, just fucking look at it. It's tiny. But that's just in the physical sense. It also is just not a major player in the global stage. And it's faced some political criticism because of its sort of unorthodox leadership, which has led to its limited ability in international affairs. So good on ya, the 84336. That was a Dusky certified pick. The Americas, Cuba. Your pick for Americas was Nicaragua. You didn't seem too convinced on it because you said possibly. So I'm not going to waste my breath saying why I don't think it's better. I'm going to just tell you why Cuba's better. President for life type leader. All right, box number 1 is a tick, but let me just explain a couple of things. Because this box would have been such a better tick if I made this 3 years ago. And here's why. Cuba's had a single-party communist government for decades, with Fidel Castro serving as its leader for a long time, specifically 1959 to 2008, before his brother Raul Castro took over ever since. Except, not really, because then in April of 2021, Raul resigned for not entirely clear reasons, but probably because of his old age, and was replaced by Miguel Diaz-Canel, who Castro personally handpicked, making him the first non-Castro leader since the revolution. But very little in Cuba will change, as like I said, Raul Castro handpicked this guy, so he's essentially a puppet leader. So I'm still ticking this box, but God, it would have been better if it was just I made this 3 years ago. Political and economic subordination. Cuba has historically faced political and economic subordination to the United States. The U.S. imposed economic sanctions on Cuba for many years, affecting its economic development and international relations. While Cuba has diversified its international partnerships in recent years, its political and economic dynamics have been significantly influenced by the United States. Box number 3. Although it may be the largest island in the Caribbean, it's still not a stretch to say that its neighbor is the United States. I mean, come on, I'm still ticking this box. Alright, on to the final continent. Oceania. Fuck off. Listen, I gotta be honest. This one's really stumped me for a long time, and I probably would have been able to upload this a long time ago if it wasn't for this fucking oceanic one. I can't think of one. But hey, wait a second. I have a comment to work with. Let's see what he put for Oceania. Oh. He fucking skipped it. Well, that's kind of shit. This is a first for this series. I am totally fucking stumped on Oceania. I cannot think of a country in Oceania that ticks these 3 boxes. The closest I got to finding one was Fiji, but because I know that it had a military coup, but I mean, the reason why I don't think that matches is because although they're Belarus and Fiji are both under a military, regime, the whole point about it is that Lukashenko has never been, opposed. But a military coup is, probably the most direct form of opposition. So I just don't think that that's really that great of a fit. So if you can somehow think of a better fit for Oceania than Fiji, then I fully invite you to do that, because it's caused some headaches for me in that regard. So yeah, that's about it. I'd like to see you comment a better one for Oceania, but also I'm, fully open for any other ideas. Like this could potentially be, a fun series to do, like, the blankety blank of each continent, Also, shout out to my buddy Bryce for doing all the editing on this, because, my phone couldn't handle it anymore. And thanks for watching.